Joining us now for the first time in 2023, co-host of the Bob McKellen podcast and the former executive producer, Hockey Night in Canada. Happy New Year, John Shannon. How are you?
I'm great, boys. I'm recharged, ready to go. Come on.
Yeah, ditto.
Nice.
Excited to see what 2023 has to offer here in the world of sports. Maybe because that World Juniors just was such a high, the way the tournament ended. Got me in a great sports mood, and the NFL was sure a lot of fun this weekend. Little known fact, or at least here in Vancouver, but you do a lot of Winnipeg Jets radio, pre-games, intermissions, post-games there on CJOB.
Yeah.
What'd you make of the game yesterday?
Well, I mean, it was in more ways than one, it was a typical Canucks game. You know, it just played just well enough to make it look like competitive and then fall apart. You know, not to change the topic completely, but the Vancouver Canucks, in my opinion, are the Toronto Raptors of hockey. And because now the
Good
Raptors,
comparison.
because the Raptors are now in the same discussion.
Yep.
Of what to do before their trade deadline in February, as the Canucks are. And the only pragmatic thing about the Raptors is the contracts are built and designed such that you can do much more quicker than you can in the NBA than you can in the NHL.
Yeah, and you're right. On a given night, like yesterday, for instance, the Raptors actually looked pretty good because everything fell for them. And every other game, every third game for the Canucks, they score a ton of goals.
Well, I mean, the Raptors are on this 6-game homestand. They've got the first two games they lost, they looked really good until the end. So you're saying, are they good enough to get into the play-in? Well, again, Canuck fans are going to laugh at me, but do you want to get into the play-in? Do you want to be wild card number 2?
Yeah, does it matter? Does it matter
to lose in 5?
Yeah.
Hey, and look, the Canucks can start their own Project 6-8 with Tyler Myers, right? Just get a whole bunch of 6-8 guys to surround Tyler Myers. I hear what you're saying about a typical Canucks game, as soon as adversity. Well, I mean, they scored a bunch of goals, they were in a shootout, adversity struck, and then they folded like a cheap 10. Do you think management at some point here is going to do if only we had the goaltending this year press conference? Do you think goaltending will be used as a crutch to explain away some of their problems this year?
It wouldn't surprise me, but at this point, I just don't think it's the way that these guys work. I mean, Rutherford being an old goalie, I don't think he's eager to do that. I think that there's enough blame to go around. I think the blue line has not been very good, and I think that has exposed Spencer Martin and Colin Delia to a certain extent. But these guys have both played more games in the NHL this season than they were ever expected to. So I don't know. I just don't know how you can blame them. I mean, these guys were slotted in to be number 2 and number 3, and when number 1 goes down, you can't expect them to become, Ken Dryden or Billy Smith or Bernie Perrant. You can't. And so I don't know how you can blame these guys for doing their best and trying their hardest.
Demko on the trip at some point. He's going to come back here, and we'll see if he can salvage. We'll see if he can salvage his season. Bruce Boudreau turned 68 today. Any birthday wishes for the Canucks head coach?
God, I hope he starts looking 68 again. Because he's looking. He and I are about the same age, and we joke about it. And I just, I remember the year that Bruce wasn't working and was gnashing at every opportunity, at every coaching chance, saying, I wish I had a chance, I wish I had a chance. And now I look at him and saying, do you really wish you had another chance? So I hope his health stays. And I think more than anything, when you become our age, health is the most important thing.
Do you think they finished the season with him?
I do. I think that's the and we've touched on this a lot, and perhaps it's my naivete, but it speaks to the loyalty and the stubbornness of Rutherford to say that, we've got him under contract. He's our guy. Boom. That's what's going to happen. And, is it going to last any longer after the season's over? Probably not, unless there's a miracle. And I right now, based on this and the start of a 5-game road trip, I'm not seeing very much of a miracle. Are you?
No, it doesn't look like they're capable of such things. And in fact, it looks like they are still very much in no man's land in a lot of ways, both as a team on the ice and off the ice, which has led to our poll question. If trying to find out if fans are even starting to swing to the point of feeling sorry for the players for being put in this position, because if you're a player on this team right now, do you have any certainty? Do you have any solid ground to be standing on right now?
Your guaranteed contract. That's it.
Absolutely.
That's why they have guaranteed contracts. And can you fight through it? Those guys that have clauses of movement or no trade in them, then that's another element. But they are. I don't feel sorry for them. They've chosen to be athletes. They've chosen to play this game that they love, and they get paid a lot of money for it. And this is not every team is going to win, but not every team is also. Vancouver's a tough town to play in, guys. You know that. And the frustration is high, and the frustration of the fans is high, and the frustration of the players is high. But this is the occupation, the vocation they have chosen. I don't ever feel sorry for hockey players, ever, not in my life.
You sound like what's his name, Michael Corleone and Hyman Roth on the boat there in Godfather 2. Michael, this is the vocation we've chosen. Do you think it gets dreadful or embarrassing for the league, given what Mr. Bedard showed us at the World Junior Hockey Championships? Like, I'm sitting here looking at Chicago, Anaheim, Arizona, San Jose. Vancouver, as we know, is a different kettle of fish, and Columbus in the East. Like, is the race to the bottom going to be something fierce, John? Do you see these teams selling off parts as soon as possible to get as bad as they can to improve the Bedard odds?
Well, it's funny that did occur to me, but then I saw Chicago beat Calgary last night.
They've won 2 in a row.
Yeah, no.
The system that they have put in place, there is a belief that it, with the draft lottery, that you're trying to protect the integrity of the game. I think the bigger concern, really, Matt, to me is that when you end up playing, if you're in a playoff hunt and you end up playing these teams, and if they have dummied it down and are trying to lose, how will that affect the playoff races?
Absolutely.
And that's a bigger concern. If I'm the commissioner, I'm not worried about the Bedard part of it. I'm worried about the integrity of the game. And if you have a game in late March against one of those teams that really wants to lose, you don't want to lose badly, but you want to lose because you don't want to get any more points, then you have to be concerned about that. I guess the next hurdle that we're going to have to look at is what happens on that first week in March with the trade deadline and what the sell-off looks like for
Can you imagine
all those teams.
Can you imagine what these Hawks look like without Kane and Taves?
Well, this is what I'm saying, Blake. Yeah. But even Arizona or Anaheim or San Jose without Carlson right now,
yep.
like what Anaheim could look like without John Gibson. And John makes a great point that if you're in a playoff race and you've got a lot of Chicago and Arizona on the schedule towards the end of March and early April, wow, those might be guaranteed win nights, 2 bonus points. I think John makes another good point in that it's probably not going to start as soon here because the salary cap is such a handcuff in terms of making some of these trades. But come March 3rd, that's when everyone has to, or get off the pot. And looking at what some of these teams could look like, especially the 4 in the West, like Columbus is getting a little healthier. I think Columbus may be just a little bit better than what their record indicates.
Who still has 3 games left against the Chicago Blackhawks? The Vancouver Canucks.
No, we had talked about it at one point that if there is a route for the Canucks back to the playoffs, look at all the games left against Chicago, San Jose, Arizona, and Anaheim.
That's actually the same discussion in Edmonton. Now I think they've finished their games against the Blackhawks, but they are salivating over the games against Arizona and San Jose and Anaheim. So
Yep. Absolutely.
That's going to be a factor. Mind you, Calgary was salivating over that game last night too, and
Yeah, it's
couldn't
true.
put it together.
Yeah, I was going to say the discussion is the same in Edmonton. It's probably the same in Denver and Calgary and in Seattle, John, who continue to hang tight here at 48 points, third place in the West with games in hand against the Alberta teams as well. And Elliot Friedman mentioned on the Hockey Night Saturday that they could have an interest in Bo Horvat. How does that strike you, especially since we've talked about Ronnie Francis in the past, a pretty conservative guy, but do you think Seattle feels like the time is right?
Wow. Here's the thing. What's the price? Tell me the price.
That is so hard for Seattle to meet because they just don't have a lot of prospects.
Well, they have a first round pick in. They have a first round pick in. I guess where's he going to be in London by the end of the week? That is there. It's funny the moment I say that. So here we have. I'd like to know Jim Rutherford's relationship with Ron Francis. I think it's okay still. I do think at a certain point they had a disagreement about a few things, but I think it's okay. So that's an interesting one. The key thing, anybody that wants to do the Horvat deal, in my opinion, and I've talked to a couple of people about it, and it has been justified, is that if you're going to give the assets the Canucks want, don't you want to have an agreement with Horvat in principle on a new deal?
Mm-hmm. Yep, I sure would.
I sure would. And so, would Bo look good in that lineup in Seattle? Absolutely. He'd automatically be the number one center. Automatically solve a problem in the face-off circle that the Kraken have. But at the same time, I'm not giving away any of my assets. And Ron Francis still has tons of assets. I'm not giving away assets unless I know I have Bo for at least 5 or 6 years. So
yep.
I don't think anybody's going to do the deal unless they can do that well, and unless the asking price is so low, it's silly.
Yeah, and I think if you're the Canucks, the ask has to start with Shane Wright, right?
Well, yeah. Well, that's my point.
Yeah.
Well, how about this one? How about taking back Anthony Mantha in a trade with the Washington Capitals? Mantha scratched. He's got an extra year left on, so you'd actually get more back in a Horvat trade because you're actually really helping out the Capitals in that regard. They've got a lot of high price talent going forward on the forward lines, but they've got a poop ton of UFAs coming off the books at the end of this season as well. So they could probably make it work for Horvat going forward as well. Is Washington an option there? A final push of the Ovechkin era?
Yeah, I guess. The thing is that by Christmas of next year, if Anthony Mantha was a Vancouver Canuck, he would frustrate every Canuck fan so much. I've been watching Anthony Mantha play since the second year of junior hockey, and he has all this talent and does all these things. Whether it be in Detroit or whether it be in Washington, and you're saying, why can't you do it better? Anthony Mantha would be a prototypical Vancouver Canuck.
Man.
You don't. I sit here at 50,000 feet and saying, you don't want Anthony Mantha.
No, but you're not acquiring him. You're not acquiring him as a talent acquisition. You're acquiring him to up the price of what you get back in that Horvat trade, right? Like that's a bitter pill to swallow.
You're still hoping to spin him off, and as John notes, sounds like Zach Cassian 2.0.
It's 1 year. You can swallow him for 1 year. Come on.
If they're swallowing him for 1 year, then they've changed their complete philosophy of how they're going forward in Vancouver. So.
Right, but they have to. That's just what everybody's asking them to do.
Speaking of changing philosophies, do you think there's any chance they shop Miller here between now and the deadline?
I don't know, honestly. But if you're trying to be logical, and logic and the Vancouver Canucks don't necessarily go hand in hand very often, I think anybody's available other than Demko. I think Demko's the one guy that isn't, but I think anybody's available. And so why? Miller's still on the last year of his old deal. Why not?
Wow.
And because
Pedersen for the right price, huh?
Well, and hardcore fans are going to be all over me. Pettersson, I wouldn't move Pettersson either. I wouldn't move Pettersson. I would really be trying to sign Kuzmenko. So, hopefully that will happen, right? There's lots of goal scoring, and the offense is not a problem in Vancouver. It's all on the blue line, guys. It's all on the blue line. Fix the blue line. This team's in much better shape.
No, you're quite right. Goal prevention is a huge problem here. You would be selling Demko low if you're trading him right now, as we all know.
I just don't want people tweeting that I'm saying anybody's expendable. They're not. Not everybody's expendable.
No.
I just. But I'm just saying, this team can still score goals. It's stopping them. Find a way to stop them, and that's they have not done a good job of filling the voids of their defensemen. Maybe Travis Dermott, now that he's back, can be better, but I'm not holding my breath. I saw him play too much in Toronto.
No, third time they pulled a goalie last night. Both of them shelled. They gave up 7, and first of a 5-game roadie through the Eastern Conference is going to be tough. John, thank you for this, my man. We'll catch up next Monday.
Cheers.